I mean that I have a really good MacBook. I've always had a really good MacBook. But when I leave the house, whether it's for 3 hours to just kip off work at the coffee shop, or I'm going to spend a week in San Francisco, I don't necessarily need the full superset of stuff that I can do on my Mac. I really want something that's not only optimized for travel, so it's slim and light and easy to charge, but also something that really is keyed into the way that I write when I'm on the road. So I don't need to have every single chapter of a book that I'm writing at my fingertips, unless I'm in the last couple of weeks of my deadline. But I do want to take some material with me. I do want to finish up a certain chapter. I do want to write a few columns I can then integrate into something else. And so really, not only does it lighten my load, but it also kind of lightens my cognitive load as well. It really is between split screen kind of limiting me to focus on just 2 apps at once, to the beauty and the clarity of iOS when projected on that big screen. It really is the best solution. And I can give no better endorsement for the new iOS and for the 12.9-inch iPad than the fact that right now my MacBook is docked. It's got like hard drives and it's got screens and everything like all plugged into it. And it would actually be kind of a big deal for me to detach it and take it with me on my next trip, because it's not likely that I'm ever going to be taking it with me on my next trip. So I absolutely love it.
So you say that the split screen, just limiting yourself to only 2 apps is an advantage. That I see that as a disadvantage, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's the way I work is not smart, because I like to have a billion tabs open. I like to have 4 or 5 screens and just be going from one place to another, but maybe that's not the most efficient way to work.
Whichever way works best for you. It's just nice to be able to try these things out. It's just that when I'm kind of on task, all I need to do is I need to have the document that I'm writing, the column that I'm writing, and then I just need to have another column to the left of it that has an outline of all the data that I want to and ideas I want to put into it. And then later on, I'm just doing fact checking, and I want to make sure that I just want to bring in Google search to make sure that I've got something spelled right, or I've got the speed or the price or something right. And it just really helps me just power through this task and just get on to the next one. Whereas, I mean, right now, again, this is my Mac, this is my desktop, and I don't even want to. It would be like an episode of Hoarders if I showed you like a screenshot of all the different apps that are open right now for all the different projects I'm sort of in the middle of today. Whereas when I grab my iPad and go, I'm going to the coffee shop and I'm thinking that, okay, well, I've got a good start on this column, or I'm nearly done with my email. Now I'll just go and get a Danish, get a coffee, and then spend the next 2 hours in this one app. So yeah, it would be difficult if I wanted to try to assimilate data from 4 different apps and then combine it all into like a page layout sort of thing. But that's okay, because that's not what I use that for.
So it's sort of like people might say, like, why don't you just work at home, Andy? Like, why do you have to go to a coffee shop? Like, do you not have internet access? But what you're saying is, like, when you're at home, you might need to make a sandwich or sweep the floor or, weed the garden, but you really want to focus. So you go to a coffee shop and you just have your iPad Pro and not all those apps open on your MacBook, and you can focus.
That too. I mean, that's a different sort of category. Oftentimes, it's nice to leave the scene of the crime occasionally when you work in a home office, because you're going to be in the office. There are times where I do not know that I've been working so hard that I have not left the house, literally not stepped foot out of the house for 2.5 days, until like I look at that little app that says, okay, here's the dots that you have earned for actually walking more than 20 feet. And okay, look, there's Sunday and there's Monday and there's Tuesday. Okie dokie, we are definitely getting on the bike and we are riding 20 miles someplace, even if it's just to get a Diet Dr. Pepper, read one piece of email, then come back again. And it's nice to be out with the humans, to be of the humans. But then like you and I have been in that same sort of boat. I mean, I'm going to be I'm traveling in a couple of days. And it's going to be a combination of like business and pleasure, and I'm going to have to get work done wherever I can find 33 minutes and 32 minutes of stamina at the same time. And so that's the time where you can just haul out an iPad or even an iPad mini, get something done, get at least 33 minutes ahead on wherever you were going to be, and then you got to get to the next briefing or the next meeting or the next event. So yeah, there are things that you can do with these iPads that I don't think I can do as successfully with a MacBook.
Right, and if you're in your hotel, you could watch Westworld on HBO Go if you needed to at night. Same machine.
Using picture-in-picture, yes.
Yeah.
That's another great example. It's like my MacBook lets me do anything I want, as many windows as I want, as many details as I want. When iOS tries to put in multitasking, they realize that I don't necessarily need 5 apps. All I need is 2 apps side by side, and maybe I want to watch a video or watch a TV show while I'm cranking through, trying to get at least down to inbox 1112.
So what about someone who's a MacBook Air user or trying to decide between a MacBook Air and an iPad Pro? What would you say to that person?
Definitely give it a try, especially if you've got the luxury of having a friend who has an iPad who will let you borrow it for a couple of days. Really, most of my job really is doing research, reading lots of research, keeping up with my email, and writing stuff. And then posting my stuff to via email and via CMS systems and that sort of thing. So obviously, anything where it's just typey is a very, very easy thing to do with an iPad. But you'd be surprised at the photo editing, video editing. These things work really, really well. The only thing that will trip you up is that I find that in the years that I've been using an iPad, even before the iPad Pro came out as a primary device, the place where it really falls down is if you're in a situation where you can't really predict what your needs are going to be, because it's still, because of all the sandboxing, it's kind of a pain in the butt still to get arbitrary files on the device and off the device. So you might find yourself in a situation where if you're counting on Dropbox to let you receive a file from somebody and then edit it and then send it on to somebody, and then 2 days later, you find that, oh, I'm in a place where there is no internet access and I don't have access to my shared folders. You're in trouble, because you're not going to have the ability to just take a compact flash, an SD card, put it into a slot, or plug a hard drive in and move things around. But if you do have that ability to realize that, okay, I'm not going to be fighting dragons this week. I know that I'm just going to be fighting lions and bears and occasionally a dog that hasn't been fed in 2 or 3 days. You can plan for that. You can make sure that you've got the goods for that. And you'll also might find that the apps that you use and you need on your desktop, there's also an iOS equivalent. For instance, Microsoft Office has done an amazing job translating Microsoft Office into a really important mobile app. There's very little you can do on the desktop that you can't do in iOS. One of my favorite desktop apps, Adobe Lightroom, because I just love taking pictures and editing them. In many ways, it's even more fun editing pictures on Lightroom for iOS because not only are most of the important features there, but also I'm actually mushing my fingers against a color 8x10 glossy photograph that I've just taken and making it look better. Whereas, doing the mousy thing, like, okay, it's working, but it's not like you feel like Jackson Pollock just like literally flinging filters and flinging tone changes onto the thing. If you feel like you need to have a jazz soundtrack following you around as you're doing your editing. So it's a scene. You should definitely try it out. And I appreciate that. And especially a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, that is the cost of a low-end MacBook Air. So definitely there's a cost consideration there. But those of us who you might find that you had an iPad-shaped hole in your heart all along, and this is exactly the right device to patch that hole.